Part 113. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1121. Chapter 1121 Meeting Li Lei again. Xiaoling became excited. It's not illegal to kill cats, right? So only I can avenge them. The old lady pulled her tighter and started crying. Xiaoling, don't be impulsive. I'm sad enough that so many cats have died. What if you do something wrong and tell me what to do? While crying, Xiaoling finally calmed down. She knelt down and hugged the old woman's thin body. The grievances she had suffered in the past few days came to her heart, and she cried with the old woman, and the tears burst into the river. The most important thing now, the old lady said while crying, is to gather the cats that are still alive and take them to the pet hospital for examination. What if some of them accidentally eat poison and have an attack? Xiaoling wiped away her tears, went home with her grandmother, got a cage and a backpack, put a few wild cats that looked uncomfortable at first sight, and took a car straight to the pet hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, I found the door closed. The guard said to them, "The hospital will close early today. You can go to another hospital." Xiaoling was extremely anxious. Why were they closed in advance? Our cats were poisoned by rat poison. If they are not treated in time, they will die. How can we go to other hospitals in time? She held a cat in her arms. The little kitten closed its eyes tightly and was on the verge of death. Was it still twitching? The guard was very sympathetic. The nearest Baiyun Pet Hospital is more than an hour away by car. If you rush there at this time, they may be off work. There is no way, this is fate. Today, a distinguished guest happened to come to our hospital. The whole hospital, all hospitals are closed and emergency rooms are closed. Pet hospitals are not like human hospitals, and no one will take them seriously even if they stay in the emergency room for a day and a half. The old lady was so anxious that she felt dizzy and kept saying, "What should I do?" Xiaoling was also anxious. She felt that the breath of the kitten in her arms was getting weaker and weaker, and her heart felt like it was being set on fire. But now was not the time to vent her emotions. She gritted her teeth and made a decisive decision. "Anyway, I still have to go to Bowen Hospital to try, otherwise I will really have no chance." He turned around, took the old lady with him, and planned to catch a car to go to Baiyun Hospital. Suddenly, someone behind them called to them, "Stay here, you two." Xiaoling turned around and saw a tall man standing in front of her. The muscles under his clothes seemed to be bulging out, giving people a huge sense of oppression. The man said to her very politely, "Miss, my young master sees that you seem to be in trouble. Let me come over and ask if you need help." Xiaoling took 2 steps back warily. "Who is your young master?" Her heart beat wildly, uncontrollably. Could it be Peixian's people who found her? The tall man smiled. "My young master is Li Lei. He said you must have heard his name." Li Lei. Xiaoling had actually heard of his name, and she was deeply impressed. On the day she went to negotiate with Wang Jingguan and was humiliated to pieces, wasn't that the same man who drove her home? His faint scent of sunshine and leather still lingers on his nose. For some reason, this stranger, whom she only met once, made her heart strangely calm. She said to the man, "My cats are dying and need immediate treatment. Please ask your young master to save them." The tall and strong man took the 2 cats from her hand and the cat carrier from the old woman's hand. "Follow me." After speaking, he strode forward and led them towards the interior of the hospital. The pet hospital has been closed, but it was closed specifically for his young master, Li Lei. The guards and security guards all recognized him as the bodyguard who followed Li Lei, so when he took Xiaoling and the others in, he encountered no obstruction. The bodyguards took them into the cat department at once, and several doctors took action to diagnose and treat the cats. Xiaoling didn't have time to breathe until then. She helped the old lady sit down on the corridor outside the clinic and wiped her forehead, which was covered with sweat. The old lady stood next to her and whispered, "We met a kind person today. If the young master hadn't let us in, we don't know how long we would have been delayed." Xiaoling smiled tiredly and said nothing. Unexpectedly, a young man emerged in his mind with a lazy smile on his face, a low and distant voice, and a sunshine-like laxity and indescribable mysterious temptation when he spoke. Those are two completely different people from Pei Xian. Just as she was thinking wildly, she saw a young man coming along the corridor and stopped in front of her, with a lazy smile on his face. "Hi, we meet again." Xiaoling looked up and saw Li Lei. Today, he is wearing a casual t-shirt, which looks casual but is extremely expensive. He has one hand in his trouser pocket, looking very casual. Xiaoling had no intention of admiring the handsome man, so she asked with caution, "Do you know who I am?" In order to prevent being recognized, she always wears outdated old clothes left by her daughter when going out during this period. She wears sunglasses, a scarf, the collar of her coat is raised high, and she is fully armed. No one would have thought that she would be among a group of common people, and no one would have thought that she would need to take out the garbage and raise cats by herself. So these days, even though she is a well-known super diva, no one recognizes her in person. Li Lei, how did you find out?" Li Lei smiled warmly at her and sat down next to her familiarly. "I knew it was you. When I took Mao into the hospital in the car, I recognized him at a glance. Anyway, I still have a story from my past. The coffee shop will send you home." He didn't reveal her identity directly, maybe because he was concerned about the old lady around him. But as soon as the words cafe came out, Xiaoling knew that he had got the right person. Xiaoling was silent for a moment and said, "Thank you. It's just a little effort." Li Lei still smiled and nodded gently to the old lady beside her as a greeting. "Why are you here? Didn't Pei Xian say you were recuperating at home?" Xiaoling felt sad and uncomfortable when she mentioned this. She was quiet for a moment and whispered, "I'd like to ask you a favor." "What?" "Don't tell anyone I'm here, don't say you've seen me, please." Li Lei's eyes showed a little surprise at first, and then slowly became clear. "The inside story is more complicated than I thought, isn't it? You escaped." Xiaoling did not deny it. Li Lei said, "What are your plans for the future? You can't hide like this forever." Xiaoling was a little panicked. I don't know, she originally wanted to find any job to support herself, but she is a big star, and her face cannot be exposed to everyone. Most jobs in this world have already been with her. She is insulated. Nowadays, it is not easy to live in the old lady's house and have food to eat, but it cannot be done for a lifetime. Her brows were filled with sadness. Take a step and take a look. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1122. Chapter 1122 Limited Edition Sunglasses. The corridor fell silent. The two were silent for a while, but the old lady sitting next to her broke the silence. "Master, can you help Xiaoling? It's not easy for a girl to live in, and she still has a long way to go." Xiaoling glanced at the old lady gratefully. Li Lei said, "I will definitely help. Xiaoling, the invitation last time is still valid. When you come to Tianyi, your treatment will be no worse than that of the emperor." Xiaoling hesitated a little, thought for a while, and whispered, "I don't want to cause trouble for you. Have you heard about Wang Jingguan? Pei, he thinks it was me who did it, and the Wang family is also looking for me." Li Lei was a little surprised. "Pei Xian came to me some time ago just to investigate this matter, but I told him it couldn't be you." "Why, does he still doubt you?" Xiaoling was startled for a moment. "He came to see you?" "Yes," Li Lei smiled sarcastically. "Ask me if I am your accomplice." I thought that after that time he would be able to wake up a little and find a way to find the real culprit. When did this happen? Li Lei recalled it and told her a date. Xiaoling was dazed for a while before she said, I ran away not long after. I wonder if Pei Xian has found the real murderer now. Or did he simply believe that she was the murderer and not look for her at all? Her thoughts were in confusion, and her heart, which she thought was already dead, began to beat again. Li Lei observed his words and said, I can help you find out the latest progress of this matter, and I can also protect you from him. How about coming to Tianyi? You are safe enough under my wings. Indeed, going to Tianyi is the best choice. She is a big star and cannot change her career to something else. Tianyi is not a small entertainment company. It is the only company in the entire entertainment industry that can compete with the emperor. Now that the dispute with Pei Xian has reached this point, unless you want to hide and eat for the rest of your life, Tianyi is the only option. Go, the old lady also advised her. Xiaoling, I know you are not an ordinary person. Your skin is so well maintained and you walk and talk so beautifully. You must have been pampered since you were a child. You and this young master are the same, a worldly person. Don't embarrass yourself and do what you want to do. What do you want to do? Her crystal world has collapsed, and there is nothing she wants to do. However, you can't really stay at Grandma's house for the rest of your life. She pondered for a moment and said to Li Lei, a lot of our cats have been poisoned. I want to help Grandma handle this matter. After the handling is completed, I will contact you in a few days. Li Lei smiled slightly and said in a soft voice, okay, I'll wait for you. The cats were still in the treatment room, and Li Lei didn't leave either. He continued to sit with them. Xiaoling was a little surprised. Why did you come to the pet hospital? Do you have pets at home? Li Lei said, well, there is a leopard. I came to take it for a physical examination today. I was afraid of scaring other people and animals, so I closed the hospital. He smiled again. Actually, Ermao is very well behaved. Leopard? Xiaoling didn't know much about these things, but she also knew that it was not easy to keep a ferocious beast as a pet. In addition to financial and material resources, one also needed courage and courage. The man in front of her was not as gentle and harmless as he seemed. However, these are not things she should care about. She went to Tianyi to sing well and make money to support herself, and she didn't want to do anything else. After chatting for a while, the door of the treatment room opened, and the pet doctor took the cats out and said, fortunately, they were delivered in time, and most of their lives were saved. We need to pay attention to their care these days and don't give them random food. He also explained many things to pay attention to. Xiaoling and the old lady listened carefully, said goodbye to Li Lei, and took the cats home. 7 or 8 cats were rescued during this trip. They survived the disaster, but they looked very weak. Xiaoling helped the old lady place them in the house. Looking at so many cats, she sighed, it's too crowded. There's nothing we can do, the old lady said. It will get colder in a few days, and it will be even more crowded. We will have to bring back those who are sick and weak and cannot bear the cold. She busily made room for the cats, and finally finished cleaning up and straightened up. She said to Xiaoling, Xiaoling, take some time to dress up and comb the healthy cats. I will send out some small advertisements in the past few days to see if any kind-hearted people come to adopt them and find them home. Xiaoling remembered that when she was a child, she was in the orphanage and waiting for adoption like these lonely cats, so she said softly, okay. She combed them carefully, sprayed them with deworming medicine, and hoped that they would find good owners. One after another, people came to the door. The cats were adopted one by one, and the old lady was very happy. You won't have to worry about cold and hunger if you have a home to go to. Xiaoling, I will be able to do it all by myself when I give away a few more cats. Then you can go and find them, that young master. Xiaoling smiled and said yes. On this day, a young man and woman came to the door. They were wearing cheap jackets and had many piercings on their ears. Their non-mainstream haircuts were particularly eye-catching. "Are all these cats available for adoption?" the man asked carelessly. "Mei Hui and I want one each." He glanced at the cats with a pair of liquid eyes, as if he was inspecting the goods. Looking at their costumes, the old lady felt a little worried. "Two of you, have you ever raised a cat? Cats are very cute little creatures that require a lot of patient care. Once you raise them, don't abandon them. Can you do that?" "What a verbose person," said the young man, reaching out to tease a cat. The cat gave a frightened cry and jumped away. "It's just a tortoise-shell turtle. It's so ugly that I won't let you touch it." "Old lady, don't look at me dressed like this. In fact, I have loved cats since I was a child. If you don't believe me, I'll call you that one over there is just a male tortoise-shell, the long-haired one next to it is Sanhua, and the one on the window is its tiger spots, and that one, is it sick? It's listless, its nose isn't moist enough, and its fur isn't shiny enough. He has every treasure in his possession. Grandma is a little more relaxed, she really can't be judged by her appearance." Next to the young man, a girl with similarly dyed hair smiled and said, "Don't look at Ada and me like this. In fact, we really love cats. We have had cats for many years. Our last cat died of old age last month. Ada and I both felt very sad, so we wanted to adopt another cat to replace him." "Then why are there two this time?" Xiaoling asked. The girl took another look at Xiaoling. As soon as she entered the door, she noticed the sunglasses Xiaoling was wearing. If she saw it correctly, it should be a very expensive brand and the style is very fashionable. "Sister, your sunglasses are so beautiful," she said with a smile. "They are from DT's, limited edition. Aren't they not available in China yet? Where did you buy them? They are so rich." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1123. Chapter 1123 Cat Abuse. Xiaoling was slightly surprised. She didn't expect that these sunglasses could be recognized. After she escaped this time, she could wear the old grandmother's old clothes, but she had no sunglasses, so she could only wear the original ones. But these sunglasses cost an average person several months of living expenses. How could she afford them with her current status? She thought for a second and then smiled. "Really? This is very cheap. I bought it from a small store I passed by some time ago. I don't know if it is a limited edition. It is probably a fake." It turned out to be a fake. The girl was a little disappointed, but she didn't pursue it any further. These sunglasses were too expensive. Indeed, Xiaoling's explanation seemed reasonable. She turned her head and continued to look at the cats. She brought a white long-haired cat over and said, "How about we adopt this one? I liked it very much when I saw it. Then we will choose another one. Adopt one. Cats are so lonely, they will be happier if they have company." The old lady smiled and said, "Okay, Xiaobai is very docile and can get along with everyone." But Xiaoling frowned slightly and couldn't tell what was wrong. She always felt that Xiaobai was shivering in the girl's arms. "Is it cold?" Xiaoling looked at Xiaobai with concern. "Is it sick?" The girl looked down at it, and when she looked up again she still had a bright smile on her face. "Maybe she's not used to the smell of perfume on me. It's okay, I'll wash it off when I get home." "Treat it well," the old lady warned her earnestly. The girl responded with a smile, and she and the man chose another kitten, said goodbye and went out. Xiaoling always felt uneasy. This was a very strange intuition. She took a few steps around the house and saw a piece of cat chewing gum in the corner. So she said to the old lady, they didn't take Xiaobai with them when they left just now. Are there any old things from Ahuang? The cat will be uneasy when it comes to a new place, so getting some old things will help it get familiar with the environment. These are what the old lady usually told her. The old lady slapped her forehead and said, look at my memory. I've forgotten it in a hurry. Hurry up and catch up. They shouldn't have gone far yet. After saying that, she took Xiaoling and chased out the door. There was a minivan at the door of the unit building. The man and the girl were stuffing two cats into a cage. Xiaobai and Awang struggled desperately and screamed shrilly. Smelly cats? What are you yelling at? The girl lowered her voice and scolded them. She stretched out her hand and hit Xiaobai hard. Scream again and I won't kill you. Xiaoling was stunned. Don't they love cats very much? How could you treat a cat like this? Without any time to think, she stepped forward and grabbed the girl's hand angrily. Stop. The girl was caught off guard, and the cat and cage in her hands fell to the ground. Xiaobai ran away with a meow, as if he was avoiding some fierce beast. Ahuang didn't run away. He arched his body into the minivan and let out an anxious meow. Soon, more meows came from the carriage, some were sad and some were weak. Ahuang, come out. Xiaoling was also anxious, fearing that these two people who didn't treat the cat well would take it away. She pushed the girl away and bent down to enter the carriage to catch Ahuang. Suddenly, her whole body froze. The carriage inside, there were several cat cages stacked up and down, containing at least a dozen cats. Each one was scarred and mutilated, some had broken claws, some were blind, and some had their tails cut off. The air was filled with the smell of putrid stench and blood, which made people sick. Xiaoling has never seen such a terrifying sight, and her face turned pale with fear. Next to the car, the girl pulled her hard. Get out. Why did you get into my car? She then came back to her senses and went to catch Ahuang again. Ahuang was holding onto a cage and refused to leave. He looked at her with pleading eyes. She used her back to resist the girl's tearing, and opened the cage with shaking hands. A cat with a broken tail ran out like crazy and disappeared in an instant. There was also a little milk cat whose eyes were poked blind by something unknown. There were only 2 holes where the eyes should have been, and they had rotted and turned into pus. It was curled up and shivering uneasily. Xiaoling reached out to take her out, only to find that its back paws had also been broken, with thick white bones poking out, and dark red blood staining the fur. At the same time, the girl and the man worked together to drag Xiaoling out. Give me back the cat, the girl screamed, grabbing the cat in Xiaoling's arms. Xiaoling stepped aside, her voice trembling with anger. You abuse cats? The old woman's face was also pale, and she pointed at the man and woman with a trembling finger. You are cat abusers. You specialize in collecting stray cats and then torture them, right? Keep them all. I want to take them for treatment. At this point, the man and the woman simply stopped pretending. The man looked at them arrogantly, his long hair as messy as dry grass in the sun. What's wrong with us just abusing cats? It's none of your business. You have already given us cats. We can play with them as we like. Ha ha ha, get away, don't stop us from having fun. He said, motioning to the girl, let's go. Ahuang was still in the car, and there were several cat cages in the car. Many cats saw Xiaoling opening the cage, and they all clung to the iron fence and meowed, restless, waiting to be rescued. Xiaoling couldn't bear it and rushed into the car again. Leave the cat. The man and the girl beat her viciously. Xiaoling was still holding an injured kitten in her arms. She couldn't avoid it. She lowered her head instinctively, but the sunglasses on her face fell off. Her somewhat haggard but still charming face was exposed to the sun. The girl who was hitting her suddenly stopped and pointed at her as if she saw a ghost. You are Xiaoling. Xiaoling's heart skipped a beat. Oh no, she was recognized. But now is not the time to worry about this. She looked at the man and woman angrily. Keep the cat. The girl turned around and got into the car. Let's go, let's drive. She was frightened. How could she see the big star Xiaoling here? Didn't the news say that she was in poor health and was recuperating at home? She actually had a conflict with such an out-of-reach person and started a fight? The girl ran away reflexively. The man also got into the car with the girl. Drive quickly. In the driver's seat of the minivan, there was also a young man wearing very unconventional clothes. Hearing this, he stepped on the accelerator, and the car sped away. Xiaoling chased for a few steps in vain. Let those cats go. The only answer she got was car exhaust. She was so angry that she lowered her head and saw that the little kitten in her arms was dying. She quickly handed it into the arms of the old woman. She picked up the sunglasses on the ground, put them on again, and together with the old woman, took the little kitten to the pet hospital. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1124. Chapter 1124 The Sudden Paparazzi. The kitten was properly treated. However, doctors said its blindness and disability in its hind legs will not recover for the rest of its life. He suggested to them, the internal organs are also damaged. This cat will suffer in the future. It should be euthanized. Xiaoling felt extremely uncomfortable. She looked at the little kitten lying on the white cloth mat and couldn't bear to let it go. Is there no other way? She asked the doctor reluctantly. The doctor shook his head regretfully. The grandmother was also very sad, but she cheered up and agreed to the doctor's suggestion of euthanasia. Not long after injecting a tube of medicine, its thin breathing stopped and its little body stiffened little by little. Xiaoling wrapped it in cloth and made a simple coffin. Life was really fragile, and it passed away in suffering so easily. She looked at it for a long time and said, I will avenge you. The old lady was as sad as she was. However, when she heard her words, she was startled. What do you want to do? Xiaoling said, there is always a way to punish them. Let's try calling the police first. It's useless. The old lady has kept cats for many years and has heard many rumors about cat abusers. The law is made for humans and cannot control those who abuse animals. I heard that some people have called the police, but the police don't care. Xiaoling remained silent. Could she just let those two people be complacent? They will kill more cats, Xiaoling said. I can't just sit back and watch. She accompanied her grandma home and didn't speak for a whole afternoon. The grandma looked at her worriedly, but couldn't think of anything to say to comfort her. Even during dinner, Xiaoling was silent. The next day, her eyes finally regained their luster. Grandma, I have thought about it. I will go to Lilei tomorrow to continue my career. When I get the money, I will hire a private detective to check the background of those two people. Come out and find a way to punish them. If she were just a commoner, she might be helpless, but as long as she regains her glory as a super queen and has money, she will definitely find a way. Seeing that she finally cheered up, the old lady was very happy. Okay, be careful. Having made up her mind, she was busy helping the old lady take care of the cats in the house, trying to make sure that the place was in order when she left tomorrow, so that the old lady would not be in a hurry. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the house. Xiaoling was afraid of the noise and said, what's going on outside? It's so noisy. The old lady wiped her hands. I'll go out and take a look. She opened the door of the house, but before she could realize what was going on, she heard a loud bang and several people excitedly threw themselves at the anti-theft iron door outside. Is this where Xiaoling lives? Hello, Xiaoling. Is Ling at home? What do you think about her cat abuse being exposed online? The old woman was frightened and closed the door reflexively. Outside the door, the noise became louder, and many people were faintly heard shouting, Miss Xiaoling, we know you are inside, please open the door, Open the door. Why do you torture cats? Do you usually have this hobby? Have you ever joined any cat abuse organization? Miss Xiaoling, Xiaoling. Xiaoling was also shocked by these voices and her expression changed. What's going on? The old lady shook her head and walked back to the living room. I don't know, Xiaoling, are they here to find you? Xiaoling put down the little white cat she was holding on her knees, walked to the door, and looked through the peephole. There are a lot of paparazzi, they must be here to find me. Since settling in, she picked a suitable time. He told the old lady his true identity, and he is a famous star who is half the world today. The old grandma didn't make a fuss because she was a star, but felt pity for her even more, falling from such a high place. How many people can bear the difference? At this time, when she heard Xiaoling's words, a look of worry appeared on her face. They seemed to say that you abuse cats. How could I abuse cats? Xiaoling was surprised. Where did this rumor come from? How do they know I live here? As he said this, he borrowed the old lady's cell phone to search for keywords such as Xiaoling, cat abuse, and many messages popped up, including a shocking photo. In the photo, she was standing in front of a minivan, holding a blind kitten with a broken leg in her arms. The kitten was still bleeding, and it was all over her hands. She looked down at it with a scary look in her eyes. There was text next to the photo, to the effect that someone accidentally saw someone abusing a cat in this residential area, and he actually looked like the super diva Xiaoling. He was so shocked that he took a photo and asked everyone to identify it. There are many hot discussions on the internet. Some people are in disbelief. Some people say that the photo is photoshopped. However, there are also countless people who are madly cursing Xiaoling, saying that she is snake-hearted, insidious, and cruel. Xiaoling was stunned. This is a false accusation. This is the photo of the day she snatched the kitten from the cat abuser's car. How did it become that she was abusing the cat? The old lady also came over to take a look and said angrily, it must have been sent by the people who came to adopt cats. You rescued several of their cats, and they want you to look good. It's so crazy. Xiaoling was extremely angry. This is unreasonable. Her blood surged to the top of her head, and before she had time to think, she rushed over and opened the door. I didn't abuse the cat, she glared at the paparazzi outside the door angrily. In an instant, the shutter sound and the flashlight came together. Xiaoling, it's Xiaoling herself. Miss Xiaoling, why do you torture the cat? Miss Xiaoling, why do you live here? Miss Xiaoling, didn't I say you were sick? What have you been doing during this time? A series of questions came overwhelmingly, almost engulfing her. The anti-theft iron door made a clanging sound. If it hadn't been locked, the paparazzi outside would have rushed into the house. Xiaoling was a little panicked. When she faced these reporters in the past, she was surrounded by managers and bodyguards. At this time, she only had to act cold. Chu Chen also did not allow the paparazzi to ask her such excessive questions. But what about now? That speculation after speculation was all negative news. But she couldn't back down. Xiaoling straightened her back and told the paparazzi, when I say there is no cat abuse, it means there is no cat abuse. That photo was an accident, and the person who took the photo is the real cat abuser. Miss Xiaoling, do you have any evidence for saying this? Miss Xiaoling, can you tell me what happened in detail? But Miss Xiaoling, the person who uploaded this photo said this is not the first time you have abused a cat. Another overwhelming problem. Xiaoling's head was about to explode. She tried hard to calm down and collect her thoughts to answer them. At this moment, a middle-aged woman struggled to squeeze into the corridor carrying a plastic bag of vegetables. Give me, you all, who are you? Are you going to let people go home? End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1125. Chapter 1125 Finally found you. Xiaoling took a look and saw that it was Lu Qiu, the shrew next door. She probably just came back from the vegetable market. The plastic bag was filled with loofah and cauliflower. A reporter's eyes lit up and he grabbed her and asked, "Auntie, do you live next door to Xiaoling? As her neighbor, what do you think of her cat abuse? Do you know that she usually abuses cats?" "Xiaoling? Who is Xiaoling?" Lu Qiu asked strangely. "Don't you know she is Xiaoling?" The paparazzi pointed to the girl behind her security door and was also shocked. Lu Qiu turned around to look, her eyes suddenly widened, and she was so frightened that the dishes in her hand fell to the ground. You. She pointed at Xiaoling, stammering, You are Xiaoling? That big star Xiaoling. Xiaoling usually wears sunglasses when going in and out. Today is the first time she sees Xiaoling's true face. The girl behind the anti-theft iron door has a fair complexion and beautiful features. She looks like the big star she often sees on TV. Exactly the same, unforgettable. No way, this kind of character who can only be seen on TV actually lives next door to her house. Lu Qiu felt bad all over and stood there dumbfounded. The paparazzi were the first to react. "Auntie, don't you know that Xiaoling lives next door to your house? How many days has she lived here, and what does she usually do? Has she ever said why she lives here?" Lu Qiu was awakened by their chatter. She had never seen such a big scene. Her usual fierceness had long since disappeared. She stammered in reply, I didn't know she was Big Star. I thought he was just a distant relative who came to seek refuge with the old lady, but, no, he was a distant relative who took refuge with the old lady. How could she be a big star? Why would a big star live here and quarrel with me about cats? She quarreled with you about the cat. A group of paparazzi got excited. Can you tell me more about it? Lu Qiu swallowed her saliva and said, I didn't mean to scold her for being unethical. It's just that she kept too many cats in the house. The smell made me want to vomit. They didn't listen to what I said. Just. She smiled awkwardly while replying to the reporter, and said to Xiaoling, Big Star, I'm sorry. There is a kind of person who is so fierce but weak at heart. He becomes soft when he sees others who are more powerful than him. However, Xiaoling was so angry that she almost vomited blood. How did Lu Qiu answer the paparazzi's questions? Is this deliberately causing trouble for her? Sure enough, the paparazzi asked excitedly, is there a strange smell in the house? What is the smell? Is it the smell of rotting dead animals? I heard that the smell of injured animals is also very strong. Is there an injured cat? They still wanted to bring the topic to her cat abuse. Xiaoling was angry and anxious, and shouted before Lu Qiu, no. Lu Qiu was so frightened by her that she was so panicked that she didn't know where to put her hands and feet. Some paparazzi said, Miss Xiaoling, don't scare this auntie. Auntie, just tell the truth, it'll be fine. Lu Qiu stammered, I don't know. As she spoke, she picked up the vegetables on the ground. She didn't want to get involved in this commotion. What if Xiaoling came to settle the score with her later? She doesn't want to offend the big star. The paparazzi misinterpreted her meaning, I don't know. Is it true that I don't know, or is there something else hidden? Auntie, you live so close to her, how come you don't know? Could this be Xiaoling's secret base for torturing cats? There was a mess in the corridor. Xiaoling said angrily, no. It's a pity that no one paid attention to her. These paparazzi are originally the hyenas of the press. They will go wherever there is the smell of blood, lest the world remain in chaos. A news as big as Xiaoling's cat abuse would attract many people's attention. Of course, they would report it as explosively as possible. As for the truth, it doesn't matter what the truth is. Xiaoling was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. She was still wearing cotton pajamas at home, which were old clothes of the grandmother's daughter. She had no makeup, and her expression was not even covered at all. Many paparazzi tried their best to take pictures of her, a rare photo of Xiaoling without makeup. I wonder how many media outlets are willing to pay a high price to buy it. And she, her chest heaving with anger, wanted to slam the door viciously. At this moment, there was another commotion at the other end of the aisle. "Give way, everyone, give way!" Several tall men squeezed in effortlessly, pushed aside the group of paparazzi, and cleared a passage. The paparazzi complained, "Why are you so crowded? Who are you?" He wanted to break away from these men, but he was suppressed by them and couldn't move. Lucia was also pressed into the crowd and was stunned. She had never seen such a battle. Each of these men was wearing a uniform black suit, with cold and unsmiling expressions, and they looked very well trained. Lucia only looked at them and forgot to close her mouth. A Rolls-Royce stopped in front of a semi-old residential building. Xiaoling's expression was no better than Lucia's. She looked at the man who got out of the car through the anti-theft iron door. He was wearing an iron gray finely crafted suit, and every line was meticulous. Even if he was attacked by a group of murderous people, surrounded by Teng Teng's bodyguards, he looked as majestic as a mountain, with stern brows that made people want to prostrate themselves. Pei Xian. Why is he here? Xiaoling's legs felt a little weak. She watched him walking in step by step and instinctively wanted to run away. After not seeing him for many days, there was something between his eyebrows that she couldn't understand, familiar yet unfamiliar. Through the iron gate and the noisy crowd, he looked down at her. "Have you had enough trouble? Come home with me." Xiaoling just woke up from a dream and suddenly closed the door. The loud slam shook her eardrums and even her hands trembled. The old lady behind her asked with concern, "Xiaoling, what's wrong? Who is he?" Xiaoling took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down, but her face was still as pale as paper. She thought of the tragic fate before escaping from the villa, the humiliation of being tied to the bedroom bed in the dark, the beatings, abuse, and the many cruel things that trampled her sincerity under the soles of her feet. The old lady called her, "Xiaoling, Xiaoling." "I'm fine." Xiaoling used all her strength to exhale softly and said, "He is the one who hit me." The old woman's expression changed. She recalled the wounds all over Xiaoling's body when she first came here. She was filled with indignation. "So he is that beast? How dare he come to you? Xiaoling, you can't go back with him. Don't be afraid. Grandma will protect you." Xiaoling shook her head weakly. She knew that once Pei Xian set his sights on this place, the old lady would be unable to protect her. She rushed to the window to see if she could climb out, but found that she was surrounded by bodyguards outside. Chu Chen was even standing outside the bedroom window, looking at her through the security window. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1126. Chapter 1126 Return to Pei Xian. Chu Chen looked at her. "Go back, he is here in person, you can't escape." Xiaoling's teeth were trembling and she backed away from the window, her heart in confusion. Across the main door, I heard Pei Xian's always low and unsmiling voice, "Open the door and come out." She didn't dare. When the old lady saw her scared look, she felt very distressed. She couldn't help but curse through the door, "I don't care who you are, domestic violence is wrong. Just leave, Xiaoling won't go back with you." There was an explosion outside the door. The paparazzi were all talking, "Dr. Pei, are you domestically abusing Miss Xiaoling?" Then for some reason, it quickly became quiet again. Xiaoling pulled the old grandma, shook her head with difficulty, and whispered, "Grandma, stop talking, there were so many paparazzi outside, who knows how these words will spread in the end, and everyone will be embarrassed." But the old lady was worried, "If he hits you, the news will be exposed." "It's not that simple," Xiaoling said. Outside the door, Pei Xian's voice was calm and steady, "You can't hide in this room forever, Xiaoling, come out, don't be ungrateful and harm other people." Xiaoling trembled. The old lady held her hand, "Don't listen to his threats. Didn't the young master you met in the hospital a few days ago say he could protect you? Xiaoling, please call that young master quickly and ask him to help you. Don't be afraid of being implicated." A bitter smile bloomed on Xiaoling's lips. She asked Li Lei to help? Let's not say whether Li Lei can save her. Even if he can, what will the old lady do? It's not that she hasn't seen Pei Xian's methods before, and she can't imagine what kind of torture the old lady will face if she really escapes. She closed her eyes gently, and when she opened them again it was clear, "Grandma, I'm leaving, take care of yourself." Xiaoling, the old lady was extremely anxious, "You kid, what if he hits you again when you go back?" Xiaoling forced a smile and said, "No, he has been very kind to me for so many years. This time, it was an accident. An accident changed everything. So what if she was still humiliated when she went back? There is no second way to choose. I only blame myself for being careless and being discovered by him." She opened the door and looked up at him at the door, "Let's go." Under the dim light of the corridor, he seemed to smile very lightly, grabbed her hand and walked out. She struggled a bit, but didn't break away. Instead, he held her tighter. His hand was like a soldering iron, firmly fixed on her lonely wrist. She heard the old lady behind her calling her, "Xiaoling." Sad and worried voice. However, there is no turning back. I have to walk down the path I chose on my knees. Amidst the sound of paparazzi's shutters and flashes, she followed him into the Rolls-Royce, started the car, and drove smoothly out of this narrow, semi-old residential area. Along the way, neither of them spoke. Returning to Hongqiang Villa, Zhou's mother came out to welcome her, and her face was full of surprise. "Miss, you are back." Xiaoling, however, had no expression on her face. She stood in the entrance and asked Pei Xian softly, "What do you want, or should you give up? Shall I lock you up?" "Pei Xian, don't let me catch another chance. I will surrender to the police station next time." Pei Xian endured, and then he didn't hit her. His voice burst out from between his teeth, "Do you really want to die that much? Do I still have a chance to survive?" She looked up at him, her voice still very soft and calm, but mocking. Zhou's mother was frightened as she watched from the side, and hurriedly stepped forward to smooth things over. "Anyway, it's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Miss, you don't know how much your husband has been worried about you during this period, and he almost lost the whole world. I turned over to look for you. I have lost a lot of weight because I don't want to eat or drink." She raised her eyes to look at him. She had indeed lost weight. There were light blue bags under her eyes, and the stubble on her chin was not shaved off. But so what? She was the one who was humiliated and wronged, so what qualifications did he have to pretend here? Thinking of this, she sneered, "Isn't it because he is afraid that the emperor will turn down a money tree? Or is he worried that he will not be able to hand over the murderer and explain to the Wang family?" As soon as she finished speaking, Pei Xian grabbed her neck and threw her against the wall. "Xiaoling, do you know that I really want to strangle you to death?" She tightened her fingers, making it difficult to breathe, and her face turned pale. But she still glared at him, unwilling to be outdone, struggling to sneer, "Cough, cough, cough, just pinch, strangle me to death. Do you think that I am very willing to come back?" His eyes became more and more gloomy, and he dragged her to look upstairs. Behind him, Joe's mother called anxiously, "Sir! Sir," but he ignored her. She turned her head to one side and swore not to say a word to him. Zion didn't need her to speak, so he threw her into the room. After a long time, he suddenly said, "I'm sorry." She was startled and turned to look at him in disbelief. "What did you say?" Under the moonlight, his eyes were deep and his voice was faint. "The real culprit has been found. You are innocent. The Wang family will not cause you any more trouble, and I will not continue to imprison you." She suspected that she had heard wrong and asked in a low voice, "What?" She had suffered so much and suffered so much, but in the end he told her that the real murderer had finally been found. Thousands of feelings came to her heart at once, and her tears oozed out, glistening down her cheeks. Zion held her in his arms and let her cry quietly. For a long time, the two of them remained silent. "I hate you." Finally, she had cried enough and choked out. He hugged her and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." This was the second time he apologized to her today. She had been with him for more than 10 years, and it was the first time she had seen him apologize so seriously. But, so what? The damage has been done. How can an understatement of sorry be undone? "I hate you," she repeated with a sob. "I never want to see you again." End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1127. Chapter 1127. Changqin is easy to break. She gradually became silent, as if she was tired from crying, and also seemed to be in despair. Zion's hands were combing her long hair little by little, as if combing the feathers of a little bird. After a long time, a gentle and low-pitched voice came, "The past is in the past. Let's live a good life in the future." She lowered her eyes slightly, "Living a good life. If the commotion has become like this, the sky will be shattered and the earth will be shattered. So what if the grievances are cleared? The brocade and silk are torn, the long harp is easily broken, the wind blows the colored glaze and the colorful clouds scatter. Can never go back." Quietly, she asked, "Who is the murderer?" Zion seemed to have expected her to ask this question, and said calmly, "It hasn't been found out yet. Don't worry, I will tell you as soon as I find the real culprit. The real culprit is Xia Yu. There is no doubt that he broke Xia Yu's hands and feet, locked her in the basement and tortured her for several days and nights, and then sent her to the Wang family, who hated her so much that her eyes were splitting. He didn't care what Xia Yu would encounter in the Wang family. Anyway, she would never come out alive again. But these things are not appropriate to tell Xiaoling. She was already resentful of him, and he didn't want the resentment to grow further. Fortunately, she was so simple and naive that she made up a lie and got over it. As expected, Xiaoling had no doubts and stopped asking further questions. She pushed away and walked outside. Zion grabbed her hand. "Where are you going?" She smiled sarcastically. "Where else can we go?" With a little force on his hand, he made her fall back down. She gave a short low breath and glared at him. "What are you doing?" I don't like you smiling at me like that." The suppressed anger in her heart exploded instantly. Xiaoling could no longer restrain herself and shouted at him angrily, Zion, why do you care about me? Do you really think you are a god? An understatement of sorry will make me completely devoted to you again? Do you really think I'm that stupid? Tell you, I will never forgive you. Uncharacteristically, he was not furious, but just looked at her, as if he wanted to look into the depths of her heart through those beautiful and clear eyes. After a long while, he asked in a low voice, "Then what do you want me to do?" She fell silent. "What do you want him to do?" "It's nothing more than wanting to break up and begging to be let go." But she knew him too well and knew that he would never let her go no matter what, so everything would be in vain. Seeing that she didn't speak, Zion said again, "I will make it up to you, pamper you more than before, and take care of you. Xiaoling, don't lose your temper again. Haven't you always wanted a red Ferrari? Tomorrow I will. Can I give it to you? She likes supercars, and her favorite is Ferrari. She once owned a red one many years ago, but she was so angry that she was smashed by someone while racing on a cliff, and she never let her have it again. Play supercar. At first, she had a long temper with him over this matter. She ignored him for half a month and even changed the logos of his 3 Rolls-Royces to Hello Kitty. Thinking about the past, a gentle smile appeared on Pei Xian's lips. I don't have any problem with you replacing the entire Imperial building with Hello Kitty this time. She also thought of what happened at that time and almost burst into tears. Finally, he stopped and said, I'm not a child anymore. You can always be a child with me. I'm stupid and ignorant, and I'm at your mercy. Pei Xian, I will never be that stupid again. What do you want? Marriage, can you give it to me? Xiaoling looked at him, the sarcasm in her eyes was even stronger, but like a fragile rose, it used its proud thorns to protect its broken heart. Either get married or let me go. Pei Xian endured it and said, it's impossible to get married, and I won't let you go. She knew this was the answer. She closed her eyes and ignored him. The sky and the earth collapsed. She thought nothing could be worse in the world. She stopped talking to him, didn't smile at him, and even refused to dine at the same table with him, until he carried her to the dining table with a stern look, pried her teeth open and fed her little by little. Zhou's mother saw it in her eyes and was anxious in her heart. Miss, there is no way you can continue like this, she comforted Xiaoling when Pei Xian was not at home. Mister, you are in his heart. He just has his own last resort. There have been quarrels, and there have been quarrels. In the past, there is still a long time to come, and you can't stay angry with your husband for the rest of your life. You are his maid, so of course you speak for him. Xiaoling was unmoved. Ma Zhou was speechless and looked a little hurt. Xiaoling looked at her and suddenly smiled. Do you know what I hope most now? What I hope most is that he will quickly find a wealthy daughter and marry her, and then the wealthy daughter will throw a plane ticket in my face. I get out of here immediately and go to a place where he will never be found again without any complaints. Miss, Zhou's mother was so anxious that she wiped away tears. Xiaoling smiled again. Okay, I'm just joking, do you take it seriously? Since she came back, she has been followed by several bodyguards every time she goes out. She is always under their sight, and there is no possibility of escape. He looked at her so seriously that he said that the wealthy daughter threw a plane ticket in her face, and he probably didn't even have a chance to meet her alone. She was lost in thought for a while, raised her head and said to Zhou's mother, I'm hungry, do you have anything to eat? Zhou's mother was startled. Didn't you just have dinner with your husband? I can't eat it just looking at his face. Zhou's mother was choked again, sighed, and went to the kitchen to get her food. Xiaoling didn't have much appetite, but she still forced herself to eat a lot. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. She had to conserve her strength so that she would be fully prepared when she ran away next time. However, more than 10 days have passed, and she still has not found the opportunity. I once thought about asking Li Lei for help, but I was afraid that Pei Xian would find out and alert him. She was thinking hard and suddenly thought of someone, Xiaoyu. These days have been so chaotic that I even forgot to contact my sister. I wonder how she is doing now. Thinking of this, she called Xiaoyu, but she didn't get through. She changed her coat and went out, saying to the driver, go to Xiao's villa. There is still one chapter to write, I will post it later. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 1128. Chapter 1128 Looking for Xiaoyu. Xiaoyu's villa is in another high-end residential area nearby, not far away. Xiaoling went to ring the doorbell, but no one answered. The whole villa was eerily deserted. Her premonition was not good and she asked the driver, "Do you know where Xiao went? Why is he not at home and not answering the phone?" The driver said respectfully, "I don't know. How about I ask Miss Xiaoyu's driver for you?" Xiaoling nodded and said yes, but when asked, the result was the same. It was said that Xiaoyu had not used a car for several days. Xiaoling panicked and made another round of phone calls. Feng Kun, Chu Chen, Xiao Hua, and others. But no one has seen Xiaoyu recently. Emperor Corporation headquarters. Chu Chen hung up the phone and knocked on the door of the chairman's office. "Boss, Xiaoling just called and asked for news about Xiaoyu. This is his meticulous and considerate place. Knowing how important this small phone call is, it took more than 10 years to work under a shrewd and critical person like Pei Ziyan and maintain his position." Pei Ziyan said, "I understand." As soon as he finished speaking, he also received a call from Xiaoling. "Xiaoling? You said Xiaoyu is missing? Don't worry, I'll send someone to look for her right now. Just wait for the news at home." Hang up the phone, he glanced at Chu Chen who was standing respectfully waiting for instructions. "Go and get some missing persons notices, search for people in a big way, and remind the Wang family to keep people locked up." Chu Chen bowed slightly in silence and retreated. They all know it well, so what if they post more missing persons notices? Xiaoyu is in the hands of the Wang family. At this time, even if she doesn't die, she has lost half of her life. There is no way the Wang family will let her go. Xiaoling returned home and waited anxiously for Pei Ziyan to return, asking, "Has he been found?" Pei Ziyan handed the coat he took off to Zhou's mother and said, "I have called the police, posted a missing person notice in all major media, and hired a private detective to do my best to search. Don't worry." Xiaoling was still very worried. She is not in good health. Why did she disappear without saying hello? Could something have happened? She has been missing for several days. How come you didn't notice that she was missing? Pei Ziyan looked down at her. "You disappeared during that time, and all my energy was used to find you." Xiaoling stared at him and suddenly fell silent. Pei Ziyan said softly, "Do you know how anxious I was at that time? It's the same as how you are worried about her now. Where can I pay attention to anything else?" She turned her head away silently, her heart sore and swollen. Pei Ziyan looked at her and smiled silently. What she wanted was this effect, to move her, to feel guilty and uneasy, to think that Xiaoyu's disappearance was all her own fault. Only in this way would she not discover the truth hidden behind the matter. And, to be completely devoted to him again. He helped her sit down on the sofa in the living room and poured her a glass of water. She was holding the cup with a dazed expression when she heard him ask, "Aren't you angry with me?" She was slightly startled, remembering that she hated him so much that she wanted to bite off a piece of meat, but because she was so confused about Xiaoyu's disappearance that she had to turn to him for help, she even forgot about her hatred. Biting her lip, she said, "If you can help me find Xiaoyu, I will. Just stay with me, okay? I don't want to be a mistress. I have said before that I have never regarded you as my mistress." He leaned over and kissed her gently, his voice hoarse. "Xiaoling, you are the only woman I love. You were, are, and will be in the future. I..." "Don't say no," he interrupted her gently, "Xiaoyu's whereabouts are still unknown." "You," she was shocked and angry, staring at him, "you threaten me." Pei Ziyan's expression was still gentle, and his words were clear and calm. "From the beginning, what I wanted was you, only you, Xiaoling. You have known it for a long time. When I was in the orphanage, if it weren't for your reason, how could I adopt Xiaoyu?" She had indeed known it for a long time, but when he brought it up at this juncture, she still couldn't help but feel chilled. "You have raised Xiao for so many years, even a cat and a dog should have feelings. She admires you so much, how could you do that, so cruel?" Pei Zion, don't involve her in what happened between us. Ha, Pei Zion chuckled softly and looked at her, Xiaoling, who brought her into our relationship from the beginning. What did you say when I wanted to adopt you? I won't treat Xiaoyu for you. Don't follow me. Are you thinking about not involving her now? She is nothing in my eyes. Xiaoling still doesn't know why Xiaoyu wants to harm her. A few days ago, he sent someone to arrest Xiaoyu and asked her about the motive of her crime. Unexpectedly, Xiaoyu kept saying she loved him, so she hated Wang Jingguan and her sister, and came up with this poisonous plan to kill two birds with one stone. What could Xiaoling love about such a vicious-hearted woman? He will tell Xiaoling the truth and ask her to take back everything she has done to Xiaoyu and only love him from now on. However, not now. Pei Zion pressed forward step by step, promise to stay with me, and I will continue to look for her. Xiaoling was so angry that everyone was shaking. You are despicable and selfish. Pei Zion was unmoved. Despicable and selfish? Weren't you selfish when you used my money to treat Xiaoyu? Nothing is so cheap in the world. You don't think I am so kind-hearted that I can just save a cat or a dog? Xiaoling looked at him and saw determination and cruelty in his eyes. She was trembling and whispered, please help me continue to look for Xiaoyu. I will give you all my money. There are several billions, which is enough to compensate you for the medical expenses you spent on Xiaoyu. Pei Zion smiled again, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Is it really enough? The money he spent at the beginning was to buy Xiaoyu's life. So what if Xiaoling is now worth several billion? Even these billions can't save Xiaoyu's life back then. What's more, it was earned through his cultivation. Xiaoling didn't know enough. She understood the truth, but other than that, she really didn't want to commit herself to him. Once he lets go, she will be his mistress. No matter how fancy he says it, this is an irrefutable fact. Is this life going to be ruined like this? Why? She murmured and asked him, why do you have to force me? Good from beginning to end, don't you want to leave a good memory in my heart? Why do you have to make me hate you? His expression moved slightly, but he quickly said, only when you are by my side can everything start well and end well. What if not? Then it's life and death. The air seemed to freeze, and her body trembled even more. I heard Pei Zion say, my patience is limited. Xiaoyu has been missing for so long, something might happen. Her time to wait for rescue is also limited. After passing this village, there is no such store. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1129. Chapter 1129 Tearing off Xiaoyu's mask. Xiaoling's heart sank a little bit, the pain was so extreme that she became numb. She heard herself whisper, okay, so what if it wasn't good? She couldn't hide or escape, so she could only be imprisoned in this world by him, serving as a tiger. How is this different from being a mistress? Yes, she was indeed unwilling to do so. If nothing happened to her sister, she would fight to the end and would rather die than live in ruins. But with her sister missing and her life or death uncertain, she could not continue to be willful. Pei Zion looked at her gently and elegantly, have you thought clearly? Think it through. No regrets. No regrets. There was a smile in his bottomless eyes, and he leaned back on the sofa and said to her, in that case, show some sincerity. Her body trembled and her face suddenly turned pale. Pei Zion said, why, you don't want to? Her expression clearly showed her unwillingness, but under his serious and oppressive eyes, she could only say dryly, don't be here, this is the living room on the first floor of the villa, with red roses outside the floor-to-ceiling window. The shaded garden has just enough sunlight in winter to render the world clear and clear. What if Joe Ma or the housekeeper and the driver bump into me? He said calmly, right here he spoiled her rotten before, so she didn't know the height of the world and tried to escape, but she also wanted to get married? Making such a whimsical request. From today on, he will teach her what the rules are and let her stay with him peacefully in the future. This will be good for both of them. Xiaoling lowered her head slightly, trembling slightly. She peeked at him, but he remained unmoved. His cold and majestic face was like a or demon. In the silent confrontation, she couldn't bear it anymore, hesitated, and then carefully leaned into his arms while wearing silk clothes. The eyes are gradually getting darker. Pei Ziyan wrapped his shirt around her. She was so beautiful. She was the only one in his life that he could not help but keep by his side. He would do anything to keep her by his side. Cruel. He didn't think so, because there was no one in the world who loved her more than he did. Following him is the best destination for her. His eyes suddenly fell on her wrist. There was a silver bracelet on her wrist that was as white as jade and seemed to be very old, emitting a faint light under the clear winter sunshine. That was a gift he gave her when she was 12 years old. He still remembered that the inner circle of the silver bracelet was engraved with their initials and 4 words, "Never leave, never leave." Thinking of this, he smiled slightly. She ran away from home a few days ago, and he sent Chu Chen to deal with the aftermath, to silence the paparazzi, and to warn the old lady who took her in about what should and should not be said. The old lady took out a pair of diamond earrings and gave them to Chu Chen. "This belongs to Xiaoling. She insists on paying me for accommodation, but how can I accept it? Give it back to her." She bought the pair of earrings herself. He remembered that she liked it very much and wore it on many occasions. However, when she was down and out, she would rather give away the pair of earrings than give away the worthless silver bracelet. In fact, she still has him in her heart after all, right? After this time in the living room, she became even more silent. Only when she asked about the progress of searching for Xiaoyu, her eyes showed a bit of the old look. Pei Ziyan helped her search for a period of time with great fanfare. Seeing that it was almost done, he told her, "The results from the private detective and the police have come out. The real culprit who murdered Wang Jingguan is Xiaoyu. She fled in fear of crime. It was probably a long time ago. It's hard to find." Xiaoling was in disbelief. "What did you say? Xiaoyu was the murderer of Wang Jingguan, how is that possible? She is her sister, the only flesh and blood relative in the world. Why did she murder Wang Jingguan?" Xiaoling looked pale and staggered back a few steps. Pei Ziyan looked down at her. "The police found the diary left by Xiaoyu. In fact, she has always been jealous of you. She was jealous that you were healthier, prettier and favored than her, so she wanted you to die and killed Wang Jingguan and put the blame on you." His words struck her heart like a heavy hammer. She clutched her heart in pain. "Impossible, impossible. Xiao is so good to me, how can she be jealous of me? There must be something wrong. She doesn't even dare to kill a cockroach, how can she kill someone?" Pei Ziyan said, "Nothing is impossible. Do you still remember the bag of poison I found from your practice room? Xiaoyu secretly put it in, but I didn't expect that I found out in time that the murderer was not you. Please ask the police to carry out a more detailed investigation. She was afraid, so she ran away." Xiaoling still didn't believe it. How could the sisterhood of more than 10 years end with these few words? She still remembered the way her sister looked at her weakly and called her sister softly. "Where's the evidence?" she asked tremblingly. "I want to see the evidence." Pei Ziyan said, "The evidence is all in the hands of the police and kept confidential. In fact, there was no diary at all." He said this just to make Xiaoling give up. But Xiaoling still found a reason to convince herself, "No. There must be something wrong. I don't believe she hates me. Zi Hung, she may have suffered an accident, so she disappeared. Pei Ziyan looked at her with pity and said nothing. Xiaoling's lips turned white. She suddenly raised her head and said, I'm going to find her. She must have something hidden. I want to find her and find out. There are 2 updates today, and one update is probably very late. Something happened, I'm uneasy, it's hard to explain, so I'm not in a good mood tonight. The good news is that I originally planned to open a short extra chapter after the end of this extra chapter, but the editor asked me to update it in the middle of next month. Therefore, it will not be completed in the next few months. You can see many extras. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 1130. Chapter 1130 Pregnancy. She was about to walk out stumblingly. Pei Ziyan grabbed her and said in a deep voice, Don't go. She turned back angrily and tried to throw away his hand. Let me go. I'm going to find Xiao. She is my sister, not your sister, so you don't feel bad, right? I don't believe she wants to harm me, I don't believe it. As he spoke, he struggled on his hands and feet, but he took advantage of the situation and pulled him into his arms, making him unable to escape. Pei Ziyan looked into her eyes. You can find her if you go out now. The police, private detectives, and the manpower I sent out can't be found by so many people. Do you think you can do it? Xiaoling, face the reality, don't, it's all nonsense. If you are really worried about her, forget about it and don't let the police discover her whereabouts and bring her to justice. I won't, she cried, let me go. She pushed him hysterically, but she couldn't push him away. Her tears fell in big drops, and she cried into a ball of tears. Pei Ziyan refused to let go no matter how much she struggled. Suddenly, he noticed that the body in his arms softened, like a bird with broken wings, falling lightly into his arms. Pei Ziyan's expression changed. Xiaoling, Xiaoling. Looking down at her face, I found that her beautiful eyes were tightly closed and her breathing was weak. Pei Ziyan suddenly picked her up, strode out, called the driver, and drove straight to the hospital. The results were surprising. The doctor in a white coat came out and said to him with a smile, Congratulations, Mr. Pei, Miss Xiaoling is pregnant. This hospital often accepts donations from the Pei family and is familiar with the Pei family. The doctors deal with wealthy families. After a long time, I knew what to ask and what not to ask, and I didn't gossip about the internal affairs between Pei Ziyan and Xiaoling. Pei Ziyan didn't expect it to be like this. The good news came too suddenly and had no sense of reality at all. The doctor smiled and called him, Mr. Pei, Mr. Pei. He finally came to his senses and asked urgently, Really? How old is the fetus? The doctor said, I am 9 weeks pregnant and the fetus is a little unstable. I need to take a good rest. 9 weeks. Looking back, it happened to be the time when Wang Jingguan had an accident and they had a quarrel. When they were together, Pei Ziyan had always paid great attention to contraceptive measures, but it was only during that period of chaos that he actually forgot to take precautions. The child came at the wrong time. After Pei Ziyan was briefly surprised, the first question he considered was what to do with the heir. If Xiaoling gives birth to a daughter, everything will be happy. If it is a son. His eyes were dim. How could he have an illegitimate child before his eldest son was born? 100 years from now, there will be big trouble. He asked the doctor, when can we find out the gender of the fetus? The doctor said, it's not possible now. It will take about 3 months to see, and 4 to 5 months is the most accurate. Pei Ziyan said gently, thank you for your hard work. He walked into the VIP single ward, stood beside her bed, and looked down at her sleeping body. Perhaps because she was pregnant with the child, She looked more beautiful than before. Her alluring face seemed to be shrouded in a layer of tranquil light, which made people's hearts sway even in their sleep. He stretched out his hand to straighten the hair on her cheek, and said in a soft voice that he didn't even realize, "Xiaoling, we will have a beautiful daughter." She woke up in the hospital bed with her eyelashes slightly fluttering. The sun shone gently on her body, and her expression was a little hazy. It took her a while to wake up when she saw him beside the bed. Recalling what happened before she fell into coma, she opened her mouth to say something, but her throat seemed to be stuck, unable to make a sound. What could she say? Are you going to continue making trouble to find Xiaoyu? Pei Ziyan is right. If Xiaoyu really hated her, killed Wang Jingguan, and fled in fear of crime, then it would be the best choice for her not to look for Xiaoyu. Only in that way will the possibility of Xiaoyu escaping the pursuit of the police and Wang family increase. Her heart throbbed with pain, so painful that she even curled up. Pei Ziyan said, "Are you awake? What do you want to eat?" She shook her head weakly and said in a hoarse voice, "Leave me alone." Pei Ziyan looked down at her. "You have to eat something, the doctor said you are pregnant." Her eyes suddenly widened, as if she didn't understand what he was saying, and she subconsciously asked, "What, how could she, have a child? At this juncture when everything is chaotic and unclear?" Feeling sour in my heart, I gently put my hand on my lower abdomen, suspecting that I was dreaming. Pei Ziyan said, "You don't seem to be very happy." His words suddenly made her angry. She raised her head, looked at him and sneered, "Happy? Pei Ziyan, how could you be happy if it were you? You refused to marry me and give your child a birthright. Why should I give him a birthright? Are you going to let him suffer after being born?" She became more and more aggrieved and heartbroken. Pei Ziyan held her hand near the edge of the bed and said, "The name is not as important as you think. If you really want it, just wait patiently for me for a few years, and I will give the child a name." She trembled. "What do you mean?" He said slowly, "If you are distressed, I can return her to the name of my wife. You can also support her by yourself, and I will not give her less for food, clothing, shares, and inheritance." She pulled her hand away as if she was electrocuted. "You are shameless." "How shameless?" he said calmly. "It's up to you to raise her however you want. I just provided you with a choice. I said that we can live a good life with you in the future. Except for marriage, everything else can be discussed." She didn't like the way he used this tone to discuss such a cruel topic. It sounded like he had given her a great gift. She looked at him fiercely, her chest rising and falling, and after a long while, she made up her mind, "I want to have an abortion." Pei Ziyan's brows twitched slightly. "You're crazy." "I want to have an abortion," she roared at him excitedly. "Since you can't give your child a complete home, don't let him be born into this world and suffer. Pei Ziyan, you don't have the final say in everything. This child is mine. It's final. I don't want him, you hear me, I don't want your child." Her posture was fierce, but she looked like she was about to cry. Pei Ziyan had a stern face and said word by word, "I don't allow it. I don't care if you're right or not. You can give it a try. No hospital will be willing to help you with the operation. He has a lot of money and there is nothing he can't do. Besides, he has sent bodyguards to follow her all the time so that she can't find any opportunities." Xiaoling became even more excited. She picked up the cup on the bedside table and threw it at him. "Get out of here. Get out." He turned his head to avoid the cup. The white porcelain teacup hit the ground and splashed water everywhere. "If you have the energy, it's better to keep it and raise the baby," he said to her calmly. "I want you and the baby to be healthy." End of this chapter.